My name is Aurelia. For everybody that's watching, my name is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator. If you don't know a little bit about me, I am a 31-year veteran Chicago public school teacher. Yes, I did 31 years. Hello.
Good Lord.
And I'm still alive to tell it. That's a good thing. Then at the same time, when I retired in 2012, I still just had a passion for children. I had a passion for neighborhoods that were disadvantaged as far as education was concerned. So I have been working steadily to just help get some of the programs back in place, especially for the neighborhood where I grew up. That particular neighborhood is heavily African American and Hispanic, and over the years, things had just been taken away from them. So I joined a couple of other retired educators, and we started doing some things. But today, I have a very, very special friend of mine. Everybody I meet now, they're just my friend for life. So just get ready to see it. How do you
It's so
go ahead?
Sha'ree, and it's really hard to connect to people, especially since, COVID happened and everyone now seems to be really remote. So the fact that, I can meet you and we can connect, that's a
That's a
godsend.
great thing.
So my name is Sha'ree Mickle. I am an in-home childcare provider. I've been doing this for 10 long years. I started out of necessity and just grew with that, learned, started to develop my own programs because my children being in home are ages 0 to 6. So I've had to learn as I've gone to create my own curriculum, which is a play-based curriculum, so that I can help these children. And I've had over 100 families. I was counting that the other day. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Great.
But part of it is that now I feel like it's my opportunity and my duty to give back and help other struggling or aspiring in-home childcare providers to be able to find their own uniqueness and to keep this industry alive, because it is not at the forefront of most single mothers or stay-at-home moms, but it's one of the easiest to do. And you're also helping other families. I mean, who moms who want to go back to work, who are looking for affordable, which seems to be what everyone's talking about, affordable childcare. They want to be able to trust the people that they're with. And I have found all my family say it's like we're bringing our child to another family member, but not just a family member who's sitting in front of the TV, but a family member that's providing for them to teach them who they are, to be comfortable with who they are, to be able to trust this person, and to be able to provide an education that is sort of a little, I'm going to say, contrarian to the norm of what's going on now in the education system.
Yes.
And so my goal is to really impact this industry sort of in that contrarian way, to say, this is 2024, not 1940s. So we've got to start thinking of ways that we're going to excite these children 0 to 3, not 15 to 19, because at that point they need to already have the mindset onto what they want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah. You just gave me your bio. Good. That's a good thing. This is good.
Till we get it out of the way.
There you go. And the thing about it is, it's because we connect. So because that's what my bachelor's degree is, in early childhood. I always wanted to open up a daycare. I wanted to work in daycare. And back when I had when I came out of school, I retired. Not retired. I graduated in 73, and my first and foremost purpose was to be a teacher, but I then also wanted to be a teacher of early childhood. So early childhood is my passion and whatever, and I even have had the opportunity to work with quite a few education, early childhood programs. But when I did get to public schools, I taught third grade, because my certificate went from 0 to third grade. So of course that's what I taught. And at the time, what I remember, after graduating, they had started child parent centers in Chicago. Right. And then they had parent-child centers in Chicago. Right. And then, of course, before they were in place, that was coming through the state, but before they were in place, there were home daycares.
That's right.
Home daycares. The majority of everything teaching a young child was a home daycare. Home daycare. Very important to have. And my daughter had quite a few. The young lady that taught her coming toward the end. We call her Miss Doris. And I'm gonna be honest, she taught her everything. She taught her everything. I was a young mom and so on and so forth. She took on her life and basically just brought her to where she is. And I'm looking at a young lady now that has a master's degree. So the village, it took the village of all of us putting it together and teaching that wisdom and whatever, you know. So if you are, what you're doing now, you said you had a daycare center, but now you are out of the schooling part, and you want to do more curriculum. How is that going for you so far?
So to go back, so I have an in-home. I struggled to open up a daycare, what do you want to call it, a child center, because I live in an affluent area. And so there is no way, unless you have $1 million in your pocket, it's really difficult. And state restrictions, I'm from Jersey, so the state restrictions are unbelievable when you're talking 0 to 3. And to be able to have these landlords say, you know, hey, I need another egress over here. And they're like, no, I'm not, you're not opening my building. So you'd have to do a freestanding. So it's been so difficult. And not only that, the parents, here's my philosophy. When a parent wants to do an in-home, it's really difficult to get them to go to a facility.
Okay.
Because their mindset just isn't there.
Right.
Once you go to a facility, then you are under state regulations, what a lot of people don't understand. So your curriculum has to sort of adhere, just like public school, to what the curriculum is, unless you want to do something different, like a Montessori, you want to do a Steiner, you want to do a Christian base. So then you've got a little bit more leeway. The government isn't sort of looking at you saying, oh, what are you doing? That's really wonderful, but you have to do these rules. So what I like about the in-home is I'm able to develop a curriculum that has that STEM in there. It just looks a little different. It's the same thing. It's, you know, it's just, again, I know you and I have talked about this before. Parents have this idea that the curriculum needs to look like what they see on TV.
Oh, okay.
And what they see from someone who is middle school, as well as in high school. That's wonderful, but that doesn't, like, how do you get that to translate to early childhood?
Right.
You have to think through things a little bit differently. I can create a different curriculum because I'm not under that guidance. And I can say, let me think, and not only that, I'm an out-of-box person.
Okay, me too.
If you haven't told with the braces. So I'm like, how can I create this curriculum where you're telling me I have to have science in here and STEM, because that's the new buzzword, in a curriculum. I just do it a little different because my audience is so much younger.
Yeah. And it's the type of thing. So basically anybody, from what I'm under, what Illinois is under is creative curriculum. So is that across the United States?
It is in some areas, yes, creative curriculum. But again, creative curriculum sounds really wonderful. But when you've got a parent who says, how does that translate into academics? Because by the time he hits kindergarten, I want him to be able to read. And you're going, well, this curriculum, you know, doesn't always solve that problem. And that's where I think, I don't want to say big brother, but I think the government sometimes has to, there's such a disconnect between a parent expectation of when your child is going to school and what the government is saying you have to teach.
I see.
So how do you find that good balance? You have to be able to think outside the box.
Yes. And when was the last time creative curriculum was updated?
Exactly.
Did we got to go off air for a few minutes?
No, we're going to stay on air. We're going to stay on. Well, that's the other problem. And a lot of stuff is outdated in 2024. Everybody now is thinking of what? AI. Let's just say it. They are thinking of AI and how can my child learn it so that they can have a good, so that they can get a good job. That's it. No one's thinking of anything different. Is how can my kid benefit down the road? Creative. Okay, I mean, it can help, it can, but you have to have I think you have to have the right guidance to be able to implement that in a creative way to help those students to be able to obtain it. Because I do feel I'm a play-based curriculum.
Okay.
So I'm going to teach you through play. Creative is just going to be a little bit creative. But if you're not that kind of a teacher, it's going to be hard to implement. And you also have to understand and be able to communicate that to your parents, because they don't, not every parent understands a creative. They think it's not academic enough for my child. I want my child to be able to succeed. And I understand the fears. I'm a parent. I understand. However, I also understand that they need, meaning the workforce, and I truly believe going forward, they need creative thinkers.
Yes.
They need those kids or those young adults who are going to be able to think outside the box and be able to tackle all of those this is a new territory that we're in, this AI, right? We don't know what jobs are going to be affected. And even if we say we know, we don't know, what does that mean? What does that truly mean when I say that AI is going to affect the grocery store?
Yes.
What does it mean for doctors? What does it really mean for lawyers?
Yes.
Right? We're all hypothesizing, but we don't really know. We want those children or those young adults to be able to get out of high school, go into college, and be able to create and craft their own path and forge this path for the ones coming behind them. Right? But how do you do that with creative curriculum that's from the 1950s, 60s? I mean, I don't even know the last time it was updated.
I don't even know. And I have quite a few friends. Well, my pastor's wife, she is she teaches at a daycare center, Mirror House, in Chicago. And I, as I've been doing these things, because a lot of my mentoring and everything has basically been falling for that teacher with the younger children, And what I was asking her when I was doing my STEM cards, I wanted to know, I said, well, do they have a STEM program? She said, no, they do not. And then I asked her, I said, okay, well, what does the child look like now? I got my daughter has a little grandson. And he's very, when they're coming out, these pandemic babies.
Yes. Yep,
oh my goodness, they're sitting up, they're asking you questions, and they're smiling and say, "What's next? Okay, what you gonna give me?"
Yeah.
And so in the meantime, what creative curriculum did back in the day is no longer needed. We were looking at developmental milestones for children.
Correct.
And now they're coming with the milestones in the development already in place. So what do you put in place now for them to learn so that they'll be at the top of the game? It's interesting because some of the daycares, like we still have let me just sort of back up. The governor of Illinois is very pro early childhood, pro early childhood. And he has basically sunk a lot of money into a lot of programs. So I wouldn't say that we do not necessarily have as many home daycares as we do having basically daycare programs almost 2 and 3 in a block. That's what we're looking at. And at this particular time, we have so many that fall under Chicago Public Schools, and then we have so many that fall under the state. So unfortunately, there's a sort of flip-flop going on, but basically everybody has to be on the same page through the state. So what I was understanding is that there's a movement in place basically to bring these individuals. I know you've heard of NACY and Casey and all of those. Yeah, they're having the conferences and things. And so they're basically pulling together these individuals that are teaching children now to up the game. Up the game. We have to, these babies are not, you're not waiting for them to crawl. You're not waiting for them to do the pinchers. You're not waiting for the fine motor skills and the large motor skills and the verbals, maybe the verbal, because we talked about that before unfortunately with technology, our children are not getting a lot of conversation, human conversations. And so that's something that is needed. That's something that is needed. But I think they're trying to pull that together. So I hope within this next presidential election or whatever, they're putting some pressure. And unfortunately, if we don't go to the powers that be and demand it, it won't get done. That takes parents, that takes you, that takes me, and everybody, because what we're seeing is the results of children that were taught in preschool, but they still don't have really basic skills by 3rd grade.
They
So
don't have
those ones
basic
that are,
skills by middle
yeah.
school.
Oh my goodness. So these children basically may have started before the pandemic, but once they get into kindergarten and first grade and second grade, what are you looking at? And and did you sort of back
Um,
up and not give them the tools that they need in order for them to be able to do whatever? So, of course, a lot of people are doing project-based learning, which is good
right.
also, and we that's it. What are we going to do? What are we going to do, Sha'ree? What can we
Well,
do? What can we
like
do?
yeah. So, and listening to you, and I am a part of NAEFC, the National
Oh, good.
Association of
Okay,
Family
great.
Childhood Center.
Great. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I see all of
Love
that material, and I do see them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're up against a lot because states are not as always cohesive and on the same
Yeah.
playing field. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
One state will say you need to put this requirement, another state will say no. So I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. The other thing is I like the idea, and we have it here in Jersey too, where there's more learning centers, I'll call them, versus in home. But again, when funding is high, they have it. When funding is low, they don't have it. Then that means that there's something that has to leave, and that's across the board. I
Yes.
mean, when the Democrats are in, you got money. When Republicans are
Yes.
in, you don't have any money.
Yes.
So, but that's
We
any
suffered for it.
charity, right? That's any nonprofit. So that
Mhm.
I get. I do feel that in-homes are important and need to be supported, but as the numbers go down, then you've got, you have less power, less voice. No one's gonna listen because they feel like they'll fund that program versus funding you as an in-home. So
Okay.
I think that's also an issue that needs to be addressed. But I think for me, the listening to you and going into my mind is that I think that there's such right now a huge shift in technology,
Yeah.
and we're trying to play catch up,
Mhm.
that we're sort of in this state of flux. How can we address all of these concerns in such a short amount of time? Because technology has AI now is a rocket. I
Yeah.
mean, and the rocket has launched.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pulling it back. It is gone. So now what do we do? And how can we get these children up to speed? But in getting the children up to speed, you got to get the curriculum up to speed. You got to be able to have the right teachers in there to teach that curriculum, and so that nobody gets left behind. But again, you're going to have some kids that are going to gravitate and stronghold, some that are going to need extra help. But how do we do this all in such a short amount of time is going to be the conversation that needs to be had. And I totally agree with you. By early childhood is where we need to make sure that the children have all of the skills that they need. But what are those skills? I mean, you can't teach them calculus, because I'm sure there's parents who would try. If there are parents, if they could get
Yeah.
them to read at one, they would have them reading. But I go, whenever a parent says to me, "Oh, my kid reads," I go, "But does he understand what he's reading?" I always say he doesn't have comprehension. He's just not old enough. The human body is what it is. The milestones are what they are. You
Have to
can't
take
push them.
place.
That's wonderful. I'll take the book from it and give him another book, and he can't read that book because that's not the book he memorized. So I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, okay.
Oh, girl, we're on the same page. And
I
and
see.
and that's a bragging point. Oh, my baby started reading such and such. Oh, my baby started up. Yeah, but
That's right.
does he understand, or is it that the same book that you told him over and over?
Over and
He
over again.
memorized.
It
His
it
memory is
happens.
very good. But
His
can
memory is very good.
he decode words? Do we know sight words and those types of things? And I'm old school about that kind of stuff with sight words and whatever. But let
But
me
any,
go
but
ahead.
anyway, but going back to it is, I truly feel that early childhood is where we need to focus. But there is where you get that conundrum of academics or a play and creative curriculum. Because I do strongly feel that at that age there has to be some preservation of childhood,
Okay.
because it you don't get it back again. Because
Okay.
what I always say to them, once you leave me, you're in the real world. And the
Right.
real world does not act like I do.
Right.
I'm going to really try to help your child as much as I can, because I know I can. But again, I'm not dealing with 35 kids. If I had 35 kids in a classroom, you know,
Yeah.
it's going to be really hard for me to help all of them. I'm going to try, but I can't help them all.
Mm.
So that's why I say early childhood is important. And then in-home is even more important because you're able to focus on those, 5 or 10, whatever your state requirement limits are, because I can see it and we can deal with it. Because once you leave me, you're in the real world.
That's it. So is there, where you're living now, is there a network? Did you see a network growing, continuing to grow with home daycares?
No, I
Oh,
think that you know why? And here, I was thinking about this, and I said, boy, I hope we jump on that subject. I think the issue is back in the 80s when MTV came about. I truly feel that that's when it was the demise of you getting a job. When I grew up, and I think you did too, you grew up, your parents said, I want you to be able to get a good education so that you could get good employment, a job that you at least liked. And if you didn't like it, at least has an income so that you could find something you like. But once the 80s came around, I remember I was growing up, all of a sudden you could see that you didn't need an education. You could play and you could be Michael Jordan, you could all of a sudden rap, you could sing, you could take a band, you could do all this stuff, and you didn't need an education. Now let's fast forward to 2024 and you see this AI. Now you know you need an education. But I think we've had so many years and social media doesn't help. You could be an influencer, right? You can get your YouTube channel. You can go on TikTok. You can go on all these things that in your mind don't require an education. I don't need to go to college. How many, now that's the new buzzword. I don't need to go because there's other avenues that I can make money. And I'm always going, okay, but let's go back to STEM. At the end of that STEM is M. It's called from math. You need math. I don't care whether you're going to be an athlete because you need to know how your salary is being calculated. I don't care that you want to be a rapper. You need to figure out how your money is going to get into your account and how much do I owe you? Oh, I have to pay for that house. I got to pay for those clothes and you're going to take the money from me. So you need that STEM, but that also goes all the way back. And I think that to me, is the crux of the issue is we have to do that societal shift. So going back to daycare, no, because it's not a part of that new age. I need money fast. I want to be able to say, here's my TikTok following of likes and followers and subscribers. So this industry is dwindling because who wants to do it? Nobody wants to do it. However, and I talked to you about this before, when you go on those stay-at-home mom blogs and you go on those chats and everything else, and you go on those groups, it hasn't failed yet. Every day there's at least 10 to 20, and I'm on a lot of them. I need a job and I need one quick. How can I get money fast? And I almost want to write to them and say, oh, I guess that TikTok didn't work for you. I guess the job didn't work for you.
Didn't work.
Right. Go into in-home, and there's such a disdain of that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I said, well, why not? That's probably going to be the easiest for you to be able to do. That's going to be able to still support the family or help a second income in the family, as well as being able to watch your kids, pick up your kids can still stay there. But it's not glamorous. And I think that's probably part of the issue. It isn't glamorous. And I think kids today are looking for that job that everyone's going to say, wow, you're doing that. That's so wonderful. And, I don't know. I'm at a loss. But I'm trying. I said, I'm going to be out here. I'm going to run in my mouth so that anytime anybody in those blogs, and like I said, I'm in a lot of them, when they tell me I need a job, the first thing I say, what about in-home? You thought about an income? Think about an income. Because I really want to start planting that seed out there to mothers who are staying at home that this is a career that you can do. You can do this. And it's not only that, it's helping out children. It'll help your child and it'll help somebody else. Some woman who has to go to work says she's looking for childcare that she can afford. But,
it happens. And unfortunately, a lot of our young people now are looking toward the baby boomers that have retired.
No, they're not retiring. That's they because
Yeah,
they
right,
can't.
because
They
they've given
can't.
us a job.
That's right. They can't retire. And a lot of them, ooh, you get me on baby boomers. Baby boomers can't retire. And I said, because who's going to do the job?
Yeah.
You have no idea how many people I know that still work in professional. They're trying to hire the young ones. And you know what they say? Not enough money. Out of college, no experience, nothing. I want more money. I don't want to work late hours. I want to work from home. I don't want 2 weeks vacation. I want the whole summer off. And then when you say no, they're like, okay, I'll just go for another interview, try to find
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
Because most of them are staying at home. They're still living with those baby boomer parents who still have to go to
Yeah.
work.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I say the baby boomers are not going to retire.
No.
Oh, you know,
It gets rough. It gets rough because
it's
we're looking we're looking down the line and just seeing how things are evolving to the point where we basically have a whole generation that think it's supposed to be instantaneous fame,
that's right.
like that. And I'm gonna be the internet has helped that to be because they
That's
thought
right.
that
Social media has made it
Beyonce's and all of these other
worse.
folks and whatever. But what gets me more than anything else is putting these babies on YouTube and wanting them to be stars immediately and whatever. And that's not rearing a child. That's not nurturing. That's not nurturing. I just want my baby to make me, at least cute right now, but you don't know what's going to happen later. But at the same time, you know what? It gets to the point where I think, and I hate to say this, but I think eventually there's going to be like a crash. I believe,
I think so too.
yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah.
It's interesting. I was thinking, I was reading this article, I think it was in the New York Times or whatever, but years ago, it would have been a war. We haven't had a war in a really long time. And I don't want to, trust me. I mean, don't write me an email saying that I want a war, because I don't. But I think that there's this societal that we need a playing field. We need something level. And I think everyone thought that COVID was going to do that. That was going to level everything out. But I just don't think it's enough. We need something that's going to really impact this society to make us all start to think, what are we doing with our children? Like, you and I talked about it. Once that child says no, oh, my job is done. Because now you can make your own decisions. Again, going back to the book, when they tell me, oh, my child can read and they're 2, I go, no, they're memorizing, but they don't have any concept of what they have just read.
Exactly.
If I ask them just simple questions, well, what happened in the book? They were going, well, didn't you read it? Don't you know? Well, here's the book and you can read it. That's how I know that they're not comprehending. And I don't know when this whole, it's time for you to go. The faster I can get you to be on your own and make your own decisions, the better off it is for me to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
But there's so much more. To me, this is the foundation. From 0 to 6 is the foundation. Because once they go in that kindergarten, now you're under whatever that curriculum is, and it may be good for your kid, it may be great, or maybe not enough. And then what happens? Because that's another thing. I run into my families that have left me and go, well, my kid is bored. What can I do? I said, you could try asking the teacher, but I said, and can they help? No, they said that this is the curriculum, this is what it is. And, they can try to supplement it a little bit, or, you can try to help them after school, or you can put them in one of those after school, factories, I'll call them, programs. Yes. But it is what it is until they get to middle school. Then we can kind of differentiate. And I'm going, okay, then that means that we're not being supported.
No.
0 to 6 needs support, because in order for it, and a good foundation, because once middle school comes, it's kind of hard, because then you're not just dealing with academic issues, you're dealing with emotional, as you know, social,
emotional learning. That's
it. And then you almost have to you take a sigh and hope that, they can kind of transition out of it as they get into high school. But
Yeah.
now, even high school, they're looking for you to make a decision on what you want for your career for college freshman year. So it used to be senior year, then it was junior year, then it was sophomore year, and now they're saying you really need to know by freshman year, which means, okay, now you need to know in elementary.
Right,
And
exactly.
that needs to be supported.
Yes. And support it. And then at the same time, well, you see they're offering college classes as early as whatever, you basically go to high school and start on your college course.
That's
But
correct.
see, what I think about it is that and happening is there's still some human development that has to take place.
But
In order.
nobody cares about that anymore. That human development thing went out with the dodo birds,
Oh boy.
And I mean, there aren't. So that Steiner or the Waldorf schools, they
Yeah.
are very much into the head, heart, and hand. They're all about anthroposophy, which is the
Mhm.
study of man, and that's what they do. But I mean, how many parents are actually running to that type of school because it is so alternative. It is so contrarian to what's going on in normal world. But listen, I love it. My daughter went to a Waldorf school, but
Okay.
I knew that there was a cutoff where I'd have to say, listen, Birdie, you're gonna have to fly.
Yeah, tweet, tweet,
Because you got
tweet.
to figure out how to be in the real world.
Yeah.
How are you going to be able to do it? But I have to say, she knows herself and she's creative, which is exactly what, that creative curriculum was supposed to do. And
Mhm.
what I feel, especially with AI, is you're going to need to be able to get a job, any job
Right.
in a field where there is AI, you have to have some creativity. You can't just be all logic. You can't just be on numbers because the computer's always going to win.
Exactly.
You can't compete in that arena. You got to compete in the arena that he can't or it can't. I guess it's not a he. It
Yeah.
can't, you know.
If you
But
if you just wanted to do like you were saying about we talked about you wanted to do some professional development, would you be allowed to go in? Have you tapped into some because first of all, looking at what well, the reason they can charge as much as they charge now, at one time, a daycare provider basically only had to have an AA degree. And then the assistant basically had a certificate. But now they're going into like, I know you've heard of the Gardner schools and and this one over here by me, and I want to just go and be a fly on the wall to see what's going on. But
and well, I mean, to your point, yes, that you can get certified. You can get certified, you can get retrained, you can get everything else. But the pay is what the pay is, what the pay is. And that seems to be the dilemma. And I think teachers are struggling with that as well.
Mhm.
If you're only going to pay me X amount of dollars, why am I doing this?
Further. Yeah, why should I go any further?
Why should I go any further? I mean, you can't be a director without a master's.
Right, right.
And you don't even know what you're doing, but you want a director behind your name, then you need to get your master's degree. And it can't be in X, Y, and Z. It's got to be in early childhood education. But then if you say, okay, I don't want to do this daycare anymore, I want to go and teach. Well, where am I going to teach? Oh, you want to go into, a regular public school, then you have to have a different certification. You want to do this, you have to have a different certification. So, you almost begin to get pigeonholed unless you want to open up your own, because that's in essence what you majority would end up doing is just opening up your own daycare. But again, you need money. You're going to sign that loan.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to make sure you can fill that school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a challenge. I think education overall is a challenge, which okay, I don't understand why. If all the other countries can do it, why can't we do it?
Exactly. Exactly. You know
And
what?
they're funded through the government. It's not
Yeah.
like they're privatized. So why is it that we can't do it too? I don't understand. We can put all this money into the military,
Yes. Yeah.
but we can't put a dollar extra into educating individuals so that we can compete at a high level, or at least the same level, or at least somewhere in the top 20, with other countries
Yes.
who are being funded. And we're saying we're the powerhouse, we're saying we're the best, we're saying we're all in this, but yet our resources are going to the wrong way. And don't even get me started about even started about that, because this is how I said, well, instead of doing student loan forgiveness,
Okay.
why not take that money and put it into giving kids scholarships
Wow.
or grants?
Yes. Yes.
Because I heard that the maximum you could get anyway with this loan forgiveness was $10,000. I said, why not take that $10,000 and apply it as a grant to any kid that applies and gets in? If you want to wait and say, well, your first semester, no, because a lot of kids flunk out or they don't transition well. But then the second one, and you do really well, then we'll take $10,000 every year off of your education, no matter what school you go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
That would have been far better. Now you're
Yes.
talking about educating instead of forgiving, and people were in a revolt. People were all mad. I went to school. How come I didn't? How come I don't? How come I don't?
Right.
If you, I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you paid for it as a parent or you signed and you didn't want, because you didn't want your kid to have a loan, you don't get forgiven. You don't get any money.
No, you don't.
If you worked yourself crazy and had two jobs and you paid your kids' tuition off, you don't get the money.
Yeah.
However, if you took that money and said, we're not going to forgive, you signed the loan just like everybody else did. However, you knew a job you was going to pay. If you're taking out $100,000 in loans and your job is only $20,000, then it is what it is.
Yes.
However, take that money and put it and give it to the kids so that they would go to. I think you would see an uptick in going to college, because people would say, at least I get $10,000 every year off. That would have been better.
Yeah, they celebrate children going off to school, but they don't really give a report as to how many stayed in school. They go off, they go off, and then you celebrate and give them the Trump, whatever it is. But how many are completing?
Right, and I think that's right, and that
goes all the way back to maturity and training from that preschool,
all the way. Oh my goodness! And it's one of the curriculums that I have, or that I teach. Part of my curriculum is life skills.
Oh, okay, that's great.
And helping out as a team, because I say to myself, you now need to be able to work in a group.
Right. Oh, okay.
It is important. So that's why when we clean together. So that this way they know how it is to work in a team. Sometimes somebody doesn't want to clean. Sometimes somebody wants to be the only one who cleans. But this way they know how to do it. Kids love, and I'm sure this, little kids love to do chores.
Oh, definitely.
They feel like they're helping.
Yes.
And I say to parents, they should be doing something. You should be able to have them, because they love doing it. To them, it's like, oh my God, look what I can do. So there's no reason when they get to kindergarten or first grade that they don't do that. If you incorporate things like that, wipe the board off. Can you help pass the papers? This way they continue that learning of how to help.
Yes.
How to be a part of a team, and that everybody has their own responsibilities in that team. And it shifts. Some will be a leader, some will never be a leader. But those are those kinds of things that we need to make sure that are part of that early childhood education.
Have you ever been able to just go in and observe some of the preschools that are happening now within?
Yes, I have.
What have you seen? Uh-oh.
Names. I won't say names. And I do, I always make sure that I'm in contact with all the daycares in the area. Okay. Even if I'm just sneaking in because I'm like, oh, I'm a parent, because I want to see what they're doing. Right. I do more. And I know I do more. And I know I do probably over more. But it's not because I don't want to say anyone's doing anything less. But I think because there's always that issue, and with little kids, you always there's discipline trying to get them to settle down and conform. But I have seen, I remember this little girl came in, she said, what we did? We did yoga. And I thought, oh my God, that's really great. Yeah, on the screen, there was that woman who was doing, and I thought, okay.
So teacher wasn't doing yoga with you. that animated, that animation, they respond, and they respond to it because you don't give them anything else. You don't give them any other
But
alternative.
it is not uncommon. It isn't.
Oh,
It
wow.
just isn't. And here I am, trying to get in, some, it's hard when you're in home and you say that there's a music program going on. You say, can you come into my home? And a lot of times they don't because you're not in a facility.
Right.
But I would have music classes. We dance, here, this is it, because I want them to at least be able to start to think creatively, be able to move their bodies, and be able to think of things outside of the box. But I feel bad sometimes because I know that a lot of facilities just don't have the funding. They just don't. And so they're trying to do the best that they can. I I remember I went in there and they were saying, we're going to have art class. And I thought, great, they've got all this funding. It was a really nice place. And they're bringing out, I shouldn't say any of this because it's not a bad thing. So please don't send me any hate mail.
It's okay. Okay.
They were paper plates. And you know how you take the little staples and put them on the paper plate. And I thought it was good. I thought it was okay. I thought, you know what?
Okay.
It's art. It is art. But I thought, oh, come on, you could be a little more creative than this. Like you could have done something a little bit better than this. But the parents were happy. Look at the artwork you did because it's from your child. But I thought, come on, we need to be a little bit more creative than this.
And you don't know what they could have been doing, what more they could have done if you had given them more, more, because every child, you don't put you in, and that's get to another thing. You don't place every child in the same box.
That's right.
You got little Johnny over here that's going to be an artist, that's going to, you got little Mary over here that has a singing voice, going to be a tremendous musician.
Yeah.
John Boy, I'm going to call him
Johnny, we'll call little Johnny.
That can take numbers and just do all kinds of things. That's why the group that I'm working with now, and I think I told you about this, we wanted STEAM academies in this particular neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the principals that I'm working with, they're also retired. And we're bulldogs. I'm just gonna be honest. We bulldogs. We are fighting.
But you need that. But you need the bulldogs.
Yeah. But we told them that basically we see it only working as we only see this program being working if you start with preschool.
Yes.
Somebody in the group said, well, we usually start STEM or STEAM. We started at I said, why? I said, are you thinking that the preschoolers can't do anything with STEM and STEAM?
They can do it.
When they're born, they're given the phones, so that's the technology right there. And all I see them taking their little fingers and pointing and just being able to technologists just know the science. If I put my finger on this, it moves it around.
That's right.
That's part of the lesson is already going.
That's right. And it's no different than language. You start speaking another language, those little ones will start clicking, they'll learn it right away. So I think what it is that the kids or the programs are not designed for early childhood.
Right.
They want to be able to do those things that probably, I won't say ethically, they just can't do because they don't want to, they're not ready mentally. If they design the program to go into early childhood, then it can be done. And I think that's the issue. They want to be able to go, whoever's funding this or who the investors are, and say, look at these wonderful STEM, look at this is engineering, and you can plug this in, and here's the battery, and do all this, and now you can be an electrical engineering, which is great if you're in middle school, but then can you take that same thing and just rearrange it and do something different? Oh, like a balloon in there, and say, take this balloon, blow it up, have mommy and daddy blow it up, rub it on your head, and watch the friction. Watch that. That's electricity. Now I've taken that same idea, but I've just made it for the little kids. And that, I think, is the issue, is they don't want to.
Yeah. So that means there needs to be more training. And some of that training needs to be, I have a girlfriend that teaches at a college, and she does early childhood. And I did some mentoring with early childhood teachers through Teach for America. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Okay, yep, 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 yep. Yeah,
And
how's
so,
that program going?
yeah. And so in the meantime, what happened is that she had to tell the teachers, she had to tell her teachers because they were teaching and then they were getting their master's degree at the same time with her program.
Right.
So they were going back and taking classes with her, and she's elementary, she's early childhood. She's early childhood bona fide, okay?
Right,
So
right.
and so in the meantime, what would happen is that she would tell these young teachers, because they were young, she said,
Mhm.
you don't take it for granted that this little person doesn't know anything.
Right, right.
And it's
But
given the readiness and the skills and the vocabulary, you will be surprised what they pick up and just fly with. So why
right,
not introduce it? Don't be afraid to introduce. That's for older children. No.
that's
There's
right,
no
that's
such thing
right,
as
that's
older
right,
children now.
that's right. Because that's how they're trained. This is how the
Yeah.
schools are. They're trained that way, that little kids just can't do it. And they can do it. It just has to be reworked so that they can do it. The principles are the same. And I always say, you're just planting the seed.
Yeah.
You're planting that seed in there.
Mhm.
I think I told you, I love Legos and Magnetiles.
Oh, they like magnetized.
Legos and
Crazy.
Magnetiles.
Yeah.
That is literally, those are the two. Once they turn one, those are the two items I have
Yes.
that helps find,
Yes.
gross,
Yes.
and not only that, imagination. You
Okay.
have no idea
Oh, my
the
goodness.
things that these little kids. I had a 2-year-old boy who took the Lego and he made a faucet.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
thought to myself, how do you do that? Because I'm hands off. I want to
Uh-huh.
see what you can do. I will help you put them together. But then once I help you once or twice, now
Right.
show me what you can do. I've seen cars.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen boats. I've seen trucks. I've seen things that I'm like, what is this? Oh, it's an apartment building. And then you can put your car in here. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
then you put it here. And I'm going, who taught you?
Yeah.
You're 3 years old. Who taught you?
Yeah.
But I said, that's that creative imagination that if you just let it bloom
Oh,
and blossom,
yeah.
they'll be able to do it. Give them the tools, give them those building blocks. The blocks are engineering,
Mm-hmm.
they're architecture, they are structural, they teach them patterns, they're teaching them sequences, because in order for you to do this line, you have to have that sequence. And
Yeah.
I go, but that's all STEM. That's it. There it is right there. But if you ask a parent, oh, he loves playing with Legos. I said, but that's
Not
STEM.
playing.
That's
He's
it right
not
there.
playing when he's putting
He's
something.
not playing it. He's used his imagination and he's building these things for what he thinks. If I put this together, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I mean, they've built some of the most interesting things. I'm like, how did you know to do that?
Yeah.
Who taught you that? But I know that it's there. But again, how many educators, and I consider myself one of them, are going to allow these children to be able to do that? But unless these early childhood educators see that and understand that's what STEM looks like, and it's to a 0 to 6, that's it right there. It's not, let me show you what it looks like. I don't show them. I kid you not. I am not one of those educators who's going to say, now this is a stick. This is what it looks like. I go, nope, I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to show you how to connect it. Once I show you, Miss Sha'ree is done.
Yes.
You show me what you can build. And sure, in the beginning, it's all linear. Then all of a sudden they start, oh, guess what? Oh, it goes like this. Oh, what does it look like if I do this? A little boy today said, this is a dinosaur. And I had to look at it. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? It is. It really looks like one. I mean, huge. And I could see where he had the claw, he had the little head, he had the back. And I thought, oh my God. But again, you have to understand that's what it looks like.
Yes.
That is STEM right there. You just in your mind are thinking it's something completely different. But those are those sparks that need to be also facilitated and guided from kindergarten to middle school to 8th grade, so that we can go ahead and transition those.
Yes. And the
But
thing,
it's
how do
hard.
we get to that point? Yeah.
How do we get? That's what I just read. How do we get there? And I think it has to begin with bulldogs like yourself, bulldogs like I know I am.
Yeah.
To say that's it. And that's one of the reasons why I said that I was going to just transition myself into creating a program where I can teach these women, like, look, it's not just about making money and staying at home and getting a second income. If you can transform your mind and
Work.
thinking about this, making a curriculum, hey, you know what? If I can also teach them this, I'm giving them that foundation so that when they do go on to outside in the real world,
Right.
that seed will be planted. And then hopefully, I mean, that's going to be a lot of government knocking on doors and saying, come on, do the not the senators, it has to be the Board of Ed to
Right.
be able to go in
Right.
there to
State
say,
board.
look,
Yeah.
we're missing the boat. We're not even on the boat. And
Right.
if we can't figure out the boat
We gonna
within the
miss the
next
boat.
year or two, this boat, we can forget it. You just might as well start learning Chinese, Japanese, every other language, because you're going to be working for international companies, because we're just not going to be able to do it.
Not be able to match up and whatever, so it gets to the point where I have even, and I see that they're mentioning, I prescribe to Education Today. I think that
Yep.
educational magazine. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're starting to bring it up, but they're really scared of it.
Yes. Of what? I said, what are you afraid of?
If
What are
you
you
teach
afraid
it,
of?
it's already, you just put a
It's
label on it.
it's it's already there. It's the minute they said AI in 2023, that was it. It was already there.
Yeah.
So you need to now just own up to it, do like everybody else, and say, look, the boat has sailed. We just need to figure out how can we get a dinghy to go fast enough over there
Right.
to get our people on that boat.
Get that book. Yes, yes. And
Because
especially for children, African-American children and brown children, they need it more than anything else. The schools that we're connecting together, preschool through 12th grade. So basically, after you start one particular program, preschool through 8th, then you go into a high school that continues it.
right.
I have told these principals, I said, you would be surprised.
Surprise.
Those 11th graders can teach those preschoolers. You would be surprised what those 6th graders can do. I said, there's no longer grades.
No,
There's coming together of ages and interests.
Yes. Yes.
Write that down, Sha'ree. Coming together of ages and interests. Interests more so than anything else, because little 5-year-old can be just as interested in something that a 10 or 11-year-old is doing. And they can teach and learn from each other. So take those desks out the classroom, and basically you set your classroom up with just interest areas.
That's right.
Of things and whatever, where children just come in and just start looking, and just let them, you just be a facilitator. And if you're just that person, if they have a question, you're answering the question. And sometimes you don't have the answer. So
that's right.
Send them to the library,
But no, I
that's
totally
the perfect classroom.
You forget that, I think that the idea of a classroom has got to change. That whole sitting there with your hands folded and yes, Miss So-and-so is out the door in 2024. You are seeing a boom. I don't know how your area is, but around here, homeschooling is becoming the norm. Everybody wants to homeschool, because then they can control that curriculum. They can different needs. And not only that, they can show them different ways of how to do STEM, how to do art, how to do this, and incorporate all this new technology so that their child isn't left behind. That's why you're seeing these 12-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds graduating college. It's because most of them are homeschooled, and their parents have figured out, oh, you know what, why don't you go to that community school, as like when you go to high school, then you get out and you take that. So then you knock 2 years off.
Taking the test to see what level you are.
That's right. And then you keep going. And I think it's because the education system has got to start not even revamp. They need to
turn it out and throw it all over again.
Throw it all out and
start all over again. And they're finding that out. They're finding that out, that basically you're going to be emptying out your classrooms and not get the funding from the government per child, because more people are homeschooling their children.
That's right.
And then what makes it so interesting is that even if you are homeschooling a child, if the neighbor finds out what kind of program you look up and you got their child too.
and like I said, I don't know if in your area, but this area,
What's going
there
on?
is a
Yeah.
huge, when I say huge, it's a huge community of homeschoolers because they just do not
Wow.
believe in education.
Yeah.
I live it's a very diverse community. Like I said, and the university is right up the street from me. And a lot of the people come here from different countries and go, education system in America, no way, no way. I'd
Control.
rather, pay for private school and
Yeah.
supplement.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Yeah.
do this over here and supplement or just go back
Mm-hmm.
to their countries.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, but that's a problem because we should be, like I said, we're talking about we're the best country in the world.
There
We
you
should
go.
be right up there. We should be
We
right up
failed at
there.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't figure out why we're not. And it's not that we're not being funded. I just think that the curriculum needs to change.
Yeah,
I think
and
teachers need
so
to be
many
paid
people,
more.
right? And so many, unfortunately, Sharice, so many people have just dumped into whatever. For the time I was teaching, every time I turned my head, there was something new coming down the pipeline that somebody wants to make money off of.
Right,
And they turned around and they basically just threw it at the schools.
right,
The Board of Education, whoever they were, they paid for it and then wanted us to make it work. Well, you didn't even get my impression or my information as to that this is something that my children can do or
right.
be interested in. You don't just
Or
take
does it even
something
make, how about even, does it even make sense? Does it make sense
exactly.
to even do it?
Yeah.
Because if you want me to implement this from 0 to 6,
Mm-hmm.
can from 6 to 12 even utilize this? Does it mean to continue? And
Mm-hmm.
then from 13 to high school, can they even do it or does it dissipate? Because that's what I see a lot of times when I see these government programs. It's specified and then everybody jumps through hoops and they make it work and then they get to either middle school or high school and there is no program. It's all done. Now the kid has to start all over. So then
Yeah.
what was the sense? If you're
Yeah.
going to implement it, it has to be from 0 or 1 all the way up to 18.
Right.
If you're going to do it all because it's a building block. There's a charter school and charter schools work like this all the time. Whereas if there's a new standard for 8th grade, they all meet because they want to know what do they have to do in kindergarten to facilitate those children coming up that block to be able to do this in 8th grade.
Right.
If charter schools can do it, why can't other schools do it?
Oh, exactly. Well, you know what? It is the bureaucracy
The bureaucracy, yeah.
and
But
politics.
but
And it's
who? But who's
we're paying for it. We're paying for it. The
right? We're
children are
paying,
paying
but
for it.
that's what I don't
Our
understand.
children are
We're
paying
paying
for it.
for it.
That's
We
right.
are paying for it. The American people are paying for it. So why is it that we don't have a voice? If I'm paying for it, I should have a voice in this. I should be able to say that if I'm moving from New Jersey to Idaho, my kids should expect and have the same education. They
Exactly.
shouldn't be told, oh no, you can't go here, you have to go there. You can't do this, you can't have that. Why? It should be the same.
Should be
If
the
we're all
same.
paying for it, we're all under that same public school umbrella. It should be the same across the board. If every other country does it and they're the size, bigger or smaller, and they're funded by their governments who we claim are less than us, and they can do it, then we should be able to do it too.
Well, my niece has been teaching in Korea and for about 6 or 7 years now. And they recruited her heavily. She's a math major, and they pulled her over there. So she's not only teaching the language, but she's teaching what it takes for those children to come over here and take over.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's right.
Yeah.
And they will learn over there. And it's like I said, I live in an affluent area.
Hello.
There's a lot of private schools over here, and that's exactly what will happen. They'll come here, they'll learn because they want to go into MIT. They want to go into Stanford.
Yes.
They want to do all the big ones, and they're going to get in, which is the funny thing. They're going to get in.
Yeah.
And little Johnny over here is saying, how?
Across the street, and I can't go.
Right. And I can't go because I wasn't educated on the same level.
Wasn't prepared.
I didn't have those educational opportunities that he had, that the government paid for in his country, but he can do it here. He's going to beat me. He's going to get it. And I know it. That's the sad part. I know it. I mean, we can go into cultural differences too.
Yeah,
but they have to learn
and that general situation, basically.
It's general. Yes.
Right in our face.
Again, it's not saying that that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is why can't we be at that same level?
Same level and whatever. Well, in Chicago, what we will be doing in the next year or two is that we will have an elected school board. And that elected school board is going to be individuals coming from the neighborhoods where children go to school. So we're going to see how that goes, you know, and they're not going to turn it completely over, but at least there'll be some voices on there. There's a young man that's coming out of the high school that we're doing as far as esteem, and he's going to be, they have student voices on there too. So this
Oh,
is
good. That's
this young
good.
man, yeah, he's going to be a senior next year, but he has been very vocal about a lot of things that has not been happening in his neighborhood, and he's going to be on that school board, you know. So
Yeah,
we
because
have to
he
just
sees
start
it.
taking more whereas before we were, you know, we were controlled. We were controlled by this by politics and whatever, and that's basically completely turning over now, which is good, you know. And I'm going to be honest, it's not going to be an instantaneous thing. It's going to
No,
still be
no.
some knots and some hills and everything that we have to basically get to the point where we want every school in the city to be qualified to teach every child in the city. In other words, whether you live on this side of town or on that
On the
side
other
of town,
side.
whatever program is in this school should be in that school over there. Whatever program is in that school should be in this school. And that's what we have been fighting for tooth and nail. And the thing about it, when it finally comes down to it, there's no excuse for it not to happen.
Yeah, that's, you know.
You just got to start fighting harder for it. I have heard people fighting for education, but I have not necessarily heard them fighting for early childhood the way it should be fought for, to the point where we are raising the standards in early childhood. That's what has to happen.
But, you know, I don't even know if we're raising the standards anymore. I just feel like, I think early childhood is what it is. I think that parents and educators just don't think of early childhood because we think that they are too young
Young,
to do
exactly.
anything.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that's where the misstep is that they're not too young. They just, they need to have the support, and people sort of rearrange whatever this program is, or whatever this STEM program or art program is. You just need to modify it or tweak it a little bit so it's on their level. You can have the same thing. It just needs to be a little bit different, so that it's, whether it's a safety issue, whether it's, you know, whatever you want to call it. But that's the issue. And that's the point that they're missing. It's like, again, the investors you're looking at, or whoever you want to get behind it, it's like, it has to be this big thing that it can go to market. Well, it can go to market for the little kids too. You can do step 1 here, step 2 here, step 3, step 4, without having it to just be this one big thing that, and again, you're doing it for middle school. Most middle school kids don't want to do it unless they've already have been to it.
They've been there. Yeah, they're taking it to the next level, usually, if they've had the skills in place and whatever, you know.
I know, but it just doesn't, I don't know. Well, who am I?
We're still figuring it out, girl. That's all right. We're gonna be okay. But Miss Sha'ree, this has been beautiful. I see your information. Thank you so much. And send me, we're going to be in connection.
Yes, and let me know. And I am gonna, I said to myself, I am gonna do a podcast, because she's my mentor, and she told me, you need to do it because you got such a personality. But I said, listen, it's gonna be about early childhood, and why can't people help? But it's probably gonna be a lot more knowing me and my mouth.
Yes. Well, invite me. I'll be ready. I'll be ready to add my 5 cents. Well, have a nice evening and everything. We will be in touch, and just thank you so much. And this
is send me a copy, because I want to
sure
laugh
will.
at this.
Yeah, we got
it. Please, tell him
we got
airbrush.
going on this one situation. Nice talking to you again. We'll be in touch. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.